Unfortunately, Planet Zoo doesn't have a multiplayer feature, but what if we can still make a zoo together? In this series, I'm building a YouTube community zoo. I will add whatever animal the top comment on the last video is. So please let me know what animal habitat you want to see. And if you get picked, your username is added to the contributor screen. I've already gone and built this zoo entrance, and for this first video, I've asked the community what to build. Our first top comment on the last post was the Red River Hog, so let's get right into adding our first animal to the zoo. Alright, let's get started. Let's find where we're going to build our first habitat. The most important aspect of building your habitat is outlining where it will be and how big it's going to be. In this case, I want a partially covered and partially open area so the hogs can go outside and come inside when it's cold. Normally, I'm not a fan of these chain link fences, but I wanted to see what I could do with them. I'll probably remove them later. I also added viewing domes to the habitat, but wasn't sure where to place them yet. So I just placed the entrance first and plan to add the domes later. I wanted some height difference in the habitat, but ended up just building a steepened wall. I replaced the plaster walls with wooden ones because I think it fits the African theme better, and then added some rocks to the back to create this kind of cliff edge for more detail instead of just a simple plaster wall. I added more rocks around the entrance of the viewing dome, and then I thought, you know what, let me replace the fence. There was this weird empty space in between where I wanted to place a path, but I ended up just filling it with more habitat space. These faux rocks add a bit of detail to the environment. I think it instantly looks a little better, even though it's still rough placement. It helps me get the overall aesthetic right. Next, it's time to bring in some Red River Hogs and place them in our zoo. I do this early on in the process because I want to see how much space they have to roam and to check if they can escape. I never actually built a habitat for the Red River Hog before. I didn't actually even have the DLC, so I had to buy that, and I must say they're really cute. So far, it looks like they can't escape, which is good, but this is foreshadowing. I then added 2 enrichments. A small puddle of water with a waterfall. And I don't really like the edges of enrichments, so I cover them up with stones as much as possible, making sure it still looks natural. The rest I cover with grasses to minimize the appearance of artificial elements. I then added bushes, trees, and filled the area with grasses. I aimed for an African savanna theme, but still foresty and grassy. I also covered the mud pool with rocks, not as much as the other one, but just enough to cover the base, and I think it really blends in well. I I continued placing grasses in different heights and filled the area in the back, which didn't really serve a purpose. I then added some tall plants that I'd never had used before, but they look really good. Inside, I added some more bushes around the trees. And then some grass details on the ground. And finally, some stones. I also used the famous trick for rotating a tree stump upside down and using the roots as details between rocks. I think it looks great. The last few steps involved painting the ground textures. I added a dirt-like texture between the rocks and under the grass. And then I lowered the fence and placed some viewing domes. But I realized something. The hogs could escape. I tried to replace the fence with one of the pre-built options. I had a hard time aligning them. But when I finally did, I really thought replacing the steel gates with a pre-made fence would work. But unfortunately, it didn't. They can jump really high. So I added a glass wall, made it higher, and that became the double fence of our habitat. Those little guys can really jump high, apparently. After catching all the escaped hogs, I added more details, like cricket sounds for ambience, and an education board for the Red River Hog. Lastly, I covered the habitat with a simple metal roof. Normally I'd go for a more thematic roof, but since it's so close to the entrance, I stuck with a more familiar design. I added some lights inside to provide ambient light so they don't get scared in the dark. And then I covered the edge of the roof with palm thatch. Colored it slightly different, and that's about it. The habitat is done. I think it looks great, and I'd love to know what you think about it. Here's some cinematics. One last thing I didn't record, I edited the path to give it a better feel and added some gates with an African theme. I think this would just make a great entrance to an African themed section of the park in the future. Thank you for watching, I hope you liked the video, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to leave a comment with what animal habitat you would like to see next. See ya!